Washington, D.C. is situated on the east coast of the USA, along the banks of the Potomac River. The city has an area of just under 70 square miles, but it sure packs a lot in. Washington was founded as the nation's capital in 1791. As soon as you land here, you get a sense of the power and history that this metropolis represents. Most visitors start at the National Mall, a 2-mile green strip often referred to as the nation's front lawn. Clearly, there's no shopping to be done at this mall. What it does offer is a sweep of the country's most famous monuments and museums all in one place. Begin your tour of the mall at the Zero Milestone, the proposed reference point for distances on all U.S. maps. To the north, you'll see America's most famous residence, the White House. To the south stands the Washington Monument. Rising 555 feet, this marble obelisk is the centerpiece of the National Mall. The U.S. Capitol Building, on top of Capitol Hill, is the nation's seat of federal government. Rest a while by the reflecting pool. Surrounded by America's most iconic tributes to its heroes and founding fathers, it's easy to let your mind wander back through the various chapters of America's history. Nestled in the trees is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Engraved in its walls are the names of tens of thousands of soldiers who lost their lives in the battlefields of Vietnam. The nearby Lincoln Memorial is where Martin Luther King Jr. made his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Admire the many sculptures and waterfalls at the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial, further along the mall. Across the tidal basin, Thomas Jefferson keeps a watchful eye on the White House from his own memorial, built in the style of ancient Rome. The mall is also home to many of the nation's Smithsonian buildings. To learn more about this interesting collection of museums and galleries, stop by at the Information Center in the Smithsonian Institution building called the Castle. The whole family will enjoy the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, where you can let your imagination fly high among historic airplanes and spacecraft. Create your own headlines at the Newseum, an interactive museum dedicated to the world of news media. The Botanic Garden of the Capitol Building offers an escape from monuments and museums. But the mall is not the only attraction in D.C. To explore the many attractions outside of the mall, the convenient Capitol bike share system is available all over the city. In picture-perfect downtown neighborhoods such as DuPont.
Hey, it's Alex Sanger with Keller Williams Capital Properties down here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Today, we're going to go visit some of the wonderful museums that we have. They're all free and they're part of the Smithsonian. Come and join me. Let's go take a look. Here are my top 5 picks for free and amazing museums to see during your visit. Number 5, the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden.
Here we are at the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden. Let's go take a look at some sculptures.
A cylindrical building, the adjoining plaza, and sunken sculpture garden house an in-depth collection by famous artists, modern masters, and works of emerging artists, cutting-edge films, and sculpture.
Like that one. I don't like that one so much. Whee!
Number 4, the National Museum of American History. Devoted to the scientific, cultural, social, technological, and political developments of the United States, it houses the Star-Spangled Banner, the very flag that inspired the nation's anthem, George Washington's uniform, Jefferson's laptop desk, and don't forget Dorothy's ruby slippers. Number 3, the National Museum of Natural History.
Hey, here's the Natural History Museum. Let's go take a look inside. That is way cool. That's an elephant. Sorry, it's an African bush elephant. Do you know what doomed the dinosaurs? Probably not having a reliable realtor that they could count on to find the best home in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Look at this thing. The Tyrannosaurus Rex. Check that out. The Natural History Museum has tons of things to see, from the big elephant we saw up front, to the dinosaurs, to just in marine life. Not to mention tons of fossils and gems and all kinds of things. It's definitely worth visiting.
Number 2, and the hardest museum to get tickets to right now, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, featuring new amazing museum exhibits spanning a wide range of stories and interests that include American South, clothing and civil rights, to literature, military and music, to difficult topics like segregation, slavery, and even politics. Number 1, the National Air and Space Museum. This museum boasts 23 galleries exhibiting hundreds of aircraft.
So here we are inside the Air and Space Museum, right by the lunar module that this thing actually landed on the moon. And above me is actually the Spirit of St. Louis, the plane. The Air and Space Museum is by far one of my favorite museums in all of Washington, D.C. Part of the Smithsonian, you have to come and see it. If you bring your kids down here to the mall, one of the great things, hidden secrets, is this carousel right across from the Smithsonian. Make sure you bring your kids here and take them on a ride on the carousel. It's great fun. Thanks so much for taking time today to come and visit with me down at the mall. I'm so glad you got a chance to see.
There's gonna be 2. Crop tops. For the homeless today, sir. Help make a difference today, guys. Put a little love in your heart.
This is your New York, and you're at the heart of it all, Rockefeller Center. It all happens here, so step inside and rise to the top. 70 stories above you is Rockefeller Center's crown jewel, top of the rock observation deck, sitting atop the centerpiece of Manhattan. 30 Rockefeller Plaza. Unforgettable views, 365 days a year. North, south, east, west, Central Park, the Statue of Liberty, the Hudson River, and beyond. Experience it all. Soar above the city on 3 stories of indoor and outdoor decks. Touch the sky on the magnificent 70th floor, a 360-degree open-air panorama of all the city has to offer. Pass under Joie, Swarovski's crystal chandelier masterpiece before your ascent. Your view is a spectacular and sweeping metropolis, a breathtaking experience you will never forget. It all happens here, so step inside and rise to the top. Rockefeller Center, an iconic destination for locals and tourists alike. Make a day of it. It's all happening here. Explore over 100 specialty shops and restaurants. Enjoy the serene fountains, lush greenery, and seasonal decorations of the Channel Gardens. Experience all the rich history, art, and architecture on the Rockefeller Center tour. Wake up with The Today Show, or laugh with Jimmy Fallon. Go behind the scenes with the NBC Studio Tour. As glamorous as ever, Radio City Music Hall is the showplace of the nation and home to the world-famous Radio City Rockettes. It's all right here at Rockefeller Center. Make a day of it with one of Top of the Rock's combination tickets. The Rock Pass grants you admission to both Top of the Rock and the NBC Studio Tour. The Rock MoMA Combo ticket grants you admission to Top of the Rock and the Museum of Modern Art.
Hi, Lou. Not much. I'm talking to a wall. What about you?
Shh. Could you keep a secret? This is the Whispering Gallery in Grand Central Terminal in New York. It's an acoustical marvel that allows a person to whisper into the wall that bounces across a vaulted tile ceiling, and you can hear the person at the other end about 30 or 40 feet away. It's one of those great secrets of Grand Central Terminal. I'm Sam Roberts of the New York Times. Grand Central is celebrating its centennial in February. It's opened in 1913. This was the gateway to the continent for so many people, so many ideas, so much culture. It just captures people's imagination in ways that almost no other building in New York can. It is emblematic of New York because it created Park Avenue. It also created Midtown in New York. This is now the busiest railroad terminal in the world, the biggest in the world. What's so fascinating about Grand Central is it's also a building that contains many secrets. Everybody knows about the famous clock facing down Park Avenue from the front facade of Grand Central. You can actually climb up to a tiny little room up ladders to access it. This clock, like all the clocks at Grand Central, is set by atomic weight set by the National Observatory, and it is extremely accurate. The train board, which lists when the trains are leaving, are always wrong. They actually leave about a minute later than the time a scheduled departure on the train boards. It has the deepest basement in all of New York City, deeper than the World Trade Center, deeper than the Federal Reserve Bank. I'm just coming out of a secret staircase right in the middle of the main concourse of Grand Central. In fact, it's in the information booth. This leads not to the sewers, but to the lower level information booth.
You have your tickets? All right, hurry up.
And of course,
Morning everybody, hope everybody's doing alright. I just arrived in New York. It was raining until I landed here. It stopped raining as soon as I arrived in the hotel, and the weather forecast says that I still have another 3 hours, 4 hours maximum of day without rain, because it's gonna start raining in a couple of hours. So I just take this time to come to Central Park and show you a bit of this park. It's just beautiful and huge, guys. We're gonna walk around 8 kilometers. We're gonna start here at the very south part, and we're gonna go around and come back to the same place. So it's gonna take, I don't know, maybe an hour or two. 8 kilometers, it's not that much, so let's do this, guys. So we are now in the pond. This is the very southwest part of the Central Park, and there's the Gapstone Bridge here. This is a very classic place for you guys to come and take pictures. It's very, very nice. You can have an amazing view over the Midtown here in Manhattan, and it's just a beautiful bridge. So good. And it's in the beginning of the trail. So this is how we start, and we're gonna go up north. We're gonna come around and then come back down. It's gonna take 8 kilometers, and hopefully it doesn't rain. The fun fact of it is the only place here in the Central Park that it's paved in a straight way. Everything else, there's nothing else. This park is huge, and it's the only part that it's straight. Now here in front of me we have the Bethesda fountain, and this part is considered the central part, the central heart of the Central Park. There's a fountain here with an angel, and it's just amazing.
Overcast and just dismal day here in New York, so it is a perfect day to go to a museum. Today I'm going to show you around the Met, short for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm going to help you make the most of your visit. I got to tell you 3 things before you get into the museum. Number 1, the museum is huge. It is the largest museum in America, one of the largest in the world, and with over 2 million works housed in the museum, it's important that you have a game plan. So if you want to see Egyptian stuff, you can focus there in the Egyptian wing. If you want to see paintings, you can spend all your time in there. If you want to see a little bit of everything, just follow me. I'll show you the best way to go. Number 2, the museum is pay what you wish. When you walk in, you'll see a suggested donation of $20 to $25. It is just that, a suggested donation. If you can't afford $25, do not let that be a barrier for you coming in and seeing this amazing museum. It was intended to be free. It's still subsidized by the city. The building is actually leased for free from Central Park in the city. So they do have maintenance costs, so definitely pay what you think it's worth and pay what you can afford, but don't feel guilty about paying less if you can't afford the full donation. Better yet, if you live here in New York, get yourself an NYC ID, which is free, and it comes with a free annual membership to the Met. And third, still photography is permitted, flash photography is not, tripods are only permitted with a permit, and video is not permitted. It is forbidden twice on their visitor info page. So I am not going to videotape inside. We're gonna try stop motion. So be kind in the comments. I have never tried that before. But here we go.
Okay, so stand in line, go through security, and immediately grab a map. This is crucial. Normal admissions to the left, members to the right, put your sticker on, and then enter the museum to your right. We're gonna start in Egypt. You're gonna walk all the way to the end of this hallway. Remember, this is a highlights tour. Don't get sidetracked or you'll be here for days. I've literally spent 8 hours in here at once and still didn't see everything. This is the Temple of Dendur. The little body of water is meant to represent the Nile. You'll notice throughout the Met, they've tried to recreate the way things would have looked if you were actually there. You can go in and check out the hieroglyphics and examine the temple up close. And this is probably a good time to remind you, don't touch anything. Head to the American wing. Check out the lamppost, the bank facade from Wall Street, and turn around for Tiffany's facade and a few of his incredible stained glass masterpieces. Down to your left, more stained glass. Through the doors and you're in medieval times. Check out the armor and then head to your right. Briefly check out the little rooms to your left to see some amazing woodwork. I just can't get over how intricate these wood inlay rooms are. I mean, look at the detail in here. They even made the bench leg cast a shadow. So cool. Anyways, keep heading through until you see a giant choir screen. Go through it and straight out to the Robert Lehman collection. This is an impressive collection with Pissarro, Renoir, Cézanne, Toulouse, Van Gogh, Gauguin, Braque, Matisse, and the original setting for Seurat's Sunday in La Grande Jatte. It's small. On the way out, pause at the red brick wall. This was the original museum exterior when Calvert Vaux and Jacob Ray Mould built it in 1880. The museum kept expanding and expanding until what it is today. Okay, back inside and through the screen again. Off to your right and check out a few 18th century.
Please bring it to the attention of the captain or a crew member. Thank you for your attention. We hope you enjoy your trip.
Passengers got their first glimpses of the Manhattan skyline, including the Brooklyn Bridge. Across the harbor to the east, it's strategically located near the mouth of the East River and was once the site of the coastal fortifications built to defend New York Harbor. In 2001, it was declared a national monument.
Yeah, we were crazy.